Meta players and Call of Duty brain rot infects the higher difficulty operations, making it that much more difficult for the solo Helldiver. It's practically a coin toss on whether or not you will have good randoms or you're just gonna have a bunch of dickheads. As a typical solo diver, I cannot recommend playing like this if you value your time. But it's not all doom and gloom, but let's discuss as a solo normal player. Listen, don't get it twisted. Helldivers 2 has one of the best communities so far that I've experienced as a typical solo normal player. Hands down, 100% of the time, any mission level prior to the top 3, I have had not once encountered players who bring down the vibe. Some of the most fun operations I have had were when some high level players joined me and showed me the ropes, and we just had a good laugh and a good time. Again, most of the time, in my experience, everyone is pretty silent and we stick to the mission objectives and call it a day. So it's not a bad time, but it's definitely not a haha funny moment time. It's just get in, get out. But why does it change it dramatically at the peak difficulties? Well, it comes down to the thing that has been plaguing the community since the launch of the game. The idea that you need to have perfect runs, meta weapons and meta strategies, and optimization. These mentalities infect easily and corrupt the experience. The fact of the matter is, developers give players too much freedom, and that's what they want, but it's a double-edged sword. When you have Call of Duty brain rot that focuses on optimization, esports shenanigans, and perfect setups, it's easy to see why it would clash with the fun, goofy, cooperative vibe the game is trying to achieve. And it's not trying to do this strictly either, but when the game developer and CEO state that technically meta players and people who are against meta are both correct, it is a clear indication that their principles for this game is player freedom and expression, but with the focus that you guys need to cooperate and work together. And if you lost me, let me make it perfectly clear. Whether you are a meta loser or someone who actually is trying to play the game for funsies, you should play how you want and no one should control your experience. But that's where the issue comes in, because the uncontrolled nature of quick play ruins this dynamic. And it's not like the difficulty dramatically changes, it just forces certain principles to the forefront. Collaboration, strategy, patience. These are things that any ragtag team can pull off as long as there's communication and cooperation. It's why you get mission complete even if you fail to extract. Obviously, what you lose there are the samples in those scenarios, which are the key thing needed for upgrades. And after running around for 40 plus minutes, it would suck not to get those samples. Trust me, I get it. But that fact alone, is that reason enough to make players behave so toxic at these higher difficulties? To boot players for no reason? To grief? To judge players based on their level? And what makes things more annoying is that at these levels, players are not using their microphones. Like I mentioned, most of the time my operations are silent. Some people talk here and there, or talk to communicate objective or something. I've only had really chatty missions when I played with my friends. And I don't know if it's because of this modern culture where people just don't use game chat, because even if I am actively using my microphone and have it on and open, and trust me, this very much gives me anxiety to do because I've been conditioned by other PvP games to hate voice chat and to hate the idea of trying to be friendly. And I really don't want to hate that aspect. But even if I'm putting myself out there, it's not like it's reciprocated 100% of the time, or even 50% of the time, which again is not really a big deal. But when you switch to the higher difficulties and the stark difference of people starting to kick you out for no reason, not communicating, getting kicked out of a pre-made squad, that's where things become troublesome. And again, if you are in a pre-made group, why is it so fucking hard for you to just close matchmaking and be private so quick play players, especially solo divers, can have a good experience? Solo diving, in my experience so far with level 7 and level 8 missions, I've personally had the better time when I wait for people to join me. That is the best way I've seen so far to increase the chance of having a better chance to play, because at least you won't get kicked. But there is the issue of griefers joining your game, which though personally so far I haven't experienced. I know I've seen threads about people getting griefed when people are joining them, so it is still an issue, but I personally feel it's more rare. But the issue is sometimes it's not as quick as we want it to be. As a normal player, time is our enemy simply because we don't have a lot of it. We're trying to maximize gaming from our 9 to 5s, you know, from our responsibilities. And again, doing a difficult operation, which requires 3 different missions, usually between 40 to an hour and a half to do, especially if you're like trying to grind the samples and run around and stuff like that. Waiting is an issue. And again, this is for me and trying at different times of the day. I think the most I've waited is maybe 20 minutes, but on average, maybe like 5 to 10 to 15 minutes. Usually I'll get 2 more randoms so I can like actually start the operation, and then I'll do a SOS to try to get the 4th. All to say that while this is the recommended option and the way I play, it doesn't negate the fact that we need quick play, because quick play is actually really spontaneous and it gets you in. But it becomes a coin flip of, am I actually going to be able to get XP and samples and actually do a mission, or am I just going to get kicked out for no reason? But how do we fix quick play? And the reality is, as of right now, we really can't. It's a coin flip. So solo divers, you need to either improve your ability to communicate, which means use your voice chat as much as possible, use your microphone to force or at least establish and create semi-friendly terms, so that way you can get through the match without toxic things like getting team killed or getting kicked out. But understand that this is not a guarantee, as I've done this many times, and again, at best, they're silent and you get to play through the match. At worst, you're gonna get harassed by a group that you're joining. Or the other thing that you can do is come to terms with the limitation that solo diving brings and the fact that you are not trying to make a cooperative session. It's not the game's duty to cater to you. You cater to the game and what it requires. And again, this strictly applies to level 7, 8, and 9 missions. Personally, level 6 is a sweet spot so far, a great challenge, and you get the chance of having good randoms join you a higher percentage chance of the time. And that's kind of where I'd stick to play at the moment. At the end of the day, we know the team is working on ways to improve this, and I do hope something changes. But yeah, I'm definitely currently now in a tight spot at these higher difficulties, but I know it's my choice. Every solo diver should know that you are choosing to play the game like this, and it's not the game's fault that you're choosing this lifestyle. But it doesn't negate the fact that morons at these levels need to fucking leave or just stay in their bubble. Incomplete squad should not have to deal with this. But what do you guys think? Flame078, the normal gamer. Until next time, adios.